Welcome to the Family Answer Man podcast. Today's episode is all about what you can do when you find that you and your spouse are unequally yoked from a biblical worldview. I'm your host, David Orges, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby, pastor, educator, and marriage and family therapist, and the resident expert here on the Family Answer Man podcast, where we tackle tough questions that families face and discuss practical solutions that really do work. Now, this podcast is not a therapy session. We're not able to give specific advice to your situations, but we do believe in mental and spiritual health, and it's very serious, and that family dynamics can be and often are very complicated. So for in-depth answers to your questions, we're going to encourage you to seek professional counsel specific to your unique circumstances. If you take a second right now to subscribe to our YouTube channel or hit the notification bell, you will never miss an episode of the Family Answer Man. And if you're listening via podcast, take a moment to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. It really does help us out, and we greatly appreciate that feedback. If our content has been helpful to you at all, share the Family Answer Man with your family and friends so that they can join you on this journey of building stronger, healthier, and happier families. With Dr. Mark, we're talking about a big question for a lot of followers of Christ, a lot of believers, and it comes from a biblical principle and something that we're told in Scripture about that we should not be unequally yoked. Yeah. Do you find that that's something that is common that you come across, where a husband and wife, spouses are unequally yoked, or do you feel like people are on the same
I think
ground?
what happens is that you have a lot of maybe college age, young adult, those who are in the prime of life as far as wanting to get married, that age and stage of life. That, of course, they're looking to one day get married, and they're desiring to get married, and that's a natural, normal progression, so to speak. And what begins to happen is that maybe they grew up with a very strong faith, but they go off to college, and maybe their faith is not as great, not as strong as it once was. They're not as active in their faith. And they meet someone, and she's really pretty, or he's really cute, and they're really nice, and they're fun to be around, and they make me laugh, and all of a sudden they fall in love, which is a very normal, understanding process. And then they decide, hey, we want to get married. But then they begin to dig and look and see as to the faith of one another. And maybe she has a very deep faith and he not so much, or vice versa. But they decide, you know what, we'll get better at this. We'll go to church. You can come over to my church, or I'll go over to your church, and you can kind of enjoy my brand of Christianity, or I'll enjoy your brand of Christianity, and we'll kind of. And what begins to happen is, as they recognize their differences after they're married, or if the husband says, I'm really not into your church, I'm not really into your belief system, or she says, you know what, that's not how I was raised, and I don't like the way that preacher preaches, and they're just so fundamental or so Bible based or whatever, and that's not how I was raised, and they seem to be so legalistic, or they seem to be so anti fill in the blank. And now you begin to see these differences occurring. And as these differences begin to occur, you begin to see now some major fractures happening, not just in the spiritual side of their life and their marriage, but now you begin to see these these fractures in the relational side. Maybe in their parenting, maybe in how they manage finances, maybe in their politics, maybe in how they treat one another, maybe how they want to spend their free time, maybe they want to get more involved with other people who are doing things that maybe the husband or the wife doesn't agree with. And now these fractures get deeper and wider and greater, and before you know it, you're going, this is not what I signed up for. Right. You told me you were going to go to our church. You told me you were going to believe like me. You told me that you'd read the Bible. You told me you'd pray with our kids before they went to bed at night. You told me you would, be a part of the, mission trip at our church that we do every year, but you're not. And so now there's this sense of disappointment and this sense of division.
So when this isn't unpacked before the marriage, It can, like you said, cause a lot of fractures and difficulty after the wedding. When you move into life, you start to find your new rhythm, causes some problems.
And you begin to realize also too, just how, and we'll unpack this more in a moment, but just how important one's faith or lack of faith really is.
Wow.
And so you begin to realize that your faith, your theological perspective, your beliefs really do drive a lot of your decisions and a lot of your interactions and your parenting style and how you spend your free time. The list could go on and on. And so if you do not have a good, solid understanding or self-awareness of that, then you don't think faith's that big a deal. Hey, it's just going to church, right? It's just saying a couple of prayers, right? It's just, enduring an hour of whatever, right? And so, no, it's much deeper than that. It's much better than that. It's much more important than that.
That's so great. I'm glad you pointed out that the faith that you have is important, but also sometimes the lack of faith is a really important factor in your relationships. So our first question for the Family Answer Man today, and if you want to ask us a question, we would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us. You can email us, familyanswerman at liveoak.church, familyanswerman at liveoak.church, and we would love to hear your questions so that we can help answer those for you. The question that we have for today says this. It says, my wife and I are unequally yoked. She is doubtful about God and Christianity and is turned off to discussion about it or going to church at all. Any advice?
Wow. Well, again, as we said in the introduction, the reason God warns us of being unequally yoked or having differing theological views.
Yeah, what does it mean to be yoked?
Unequally yoked basically is a term that the Apostle Paul uses, basically saying that if a person is a follower of Jesus, they should embrace, they should include, they should involve, they should marry, if you will, only another person who's a follower of Jesus. If not, he says you're unequally yoked. And the illustration he uses, he says, what good does light have with darkness? And then he takes it another level. What good does Jesus have with Baal?
Right.
A false god.
False god.
And so this is very serious because what he's saying is that our theology is foundational to almost every area of our life. As we said before, your theology is foundational to your philosophy. Your philosophy, therefore, determines how you see your choices. Your choices determine how you see your decisions, and your decisions will determine your success or failure. And so, again, our theology is our foundation. As a matter of fact, God warned Solomon, wisest person of the Old Testament, if you will, about getting involved with women who had different theological views, or put very bluntly, who followed false gods or even demonic entities. And he said the reason why, he says, because they will turn you from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They will turn you from the one true God. And so the reality is our faith's important. And so the Bible warns us about this being unequally yoked because sharing our faith, building on our foundation is important. And not only that, but passing that faith down to our children is also crucial.
Absolutely.
Many will argue that what we have is what some call a generational faith. Meaning that we are called to instruct our children, we're called to inspire our children, we're called to include and encourage our children in the faith, believing in the one true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of Messiah, the God who created the heavens and the earth. We are called to instill that into our kids, because if we don't, then someone else will instill their beliefs into our kids.
Yes.
And we're seeing that today in today's culture. So again, in this particular question, this wife does not embrace her husband's faith, does not embrace Christianity, does not embrace God, does not embrace going to church. And so at first glance, you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? And many will argue that maybe she's just struggling with doubt. And I think it's important that we understand that expressing our doubt and expressing our disappointments about God or church or Christians is very common and natural. And it's okay. And it's important to work out and work through that doubt.
So even expressing our doubts about God, about Christianity, about the Bible is not sinful in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is we all have struggled with that on some level. I think where the problem comes in is when we don't express it, or if we don't have a place that we feel safe to express it. Because if we don't work through it, and part of working through anything is expressing it. You cannot change what you don't confront. And so we need people in our life to help us, unpack some of our doubts and disappointments, and where are we with God, and how do I know God's there, and help me through those times when I feel like God's a million miles away, or whatever it may be. And so That's important to note. And if this woman, if this wife here has not done that, then what she probably has is years, if not decades, of doubt being built up in her life. Disappointments have been built up in her life that she has never expressed or unpacked. And because of that, she's telling her husband, I want nothing to do with your faith.
Right, because like you said, unprocessed doubts and disappointments usually end up in disillusionment.
Exactly. And not only that, but it creates the division and the detachment, if you will, from one's faith and from one's marriage, because the spiritual life of a couple, I will argue, is one of the many factors that keep you connected and keep you attached. Yeah. Another point here is this: the concern here seems to be the lack of desire to discuss a very important topic, namely faith, God, and church. So not only does she not only is she struggling with the doubt and the lack of interest in the faith, she doesn't even want to discuss it.
Right, a lot of resistance.
And here's my concern with that. Whenever you refuse to discuss, as a husband and wife, important topics, that is symptomatic of lots of things. So whenever a husband and wife will not discuss an important topic, whether it be, their spiritual life, their parenting, their finances, their intimacy, whatever it may be, if a couple refuses to discuss an important topic, that is symptomatic of, first of all, a lack of intimacy. Because a husband and wife should be able to discuss anything. And if you can't, that means there is a lack of intimacy in that area.
Yeah.
There is a lack of respect in that area. There's a lack maybe of trust in that area. There's a lack of concern in that area. There's a lack of openness in that area. And there's maybe even a lack of empathy in that area. Now, these are very powerful and meaningful symptoms. And some would even argue these symptoms are very concerning if they are a part of the husband and wife interaction, or if they don't have that interaction in these areas. So here's why this is so important. That whenever a person lacks these qualities of being open or being empathetic or being transparent, whenever a person lacks these qualities, that generally points to a personality disorder.
We've talked about personality disorders before.
Yes, and it points to the personality disorder that we've all heard about, and that is the personality disorder of narcissism. Now,
narcissism.
I'll unpack that more in a second. But the bottom line is this: people with a personality disorder, they struggle with adapting to new areas, new environments, and new situations.
Okay.
That's what makes a personality disorder a problem. Because a person with a personality disorder struggles with adapting to new areas, new environments, new situations. In other words, they're good in their area, they're good in their environment. Take them out of that environment, take them out of that area, and they do not know how to adapt. And that's what makes it so problematic. And so therefore, people with a narcissistic personality disorder, they often, therefore, do not do well in marital relationships.
Because there's a lot of adaptation required in marriage.
Because there's a lot of adaptation required in marriage. There's a lot of adjustment required in marriage. And so, again, for those who aren't familiar with this, here are some of the symptoms of, again, the narcissistic personality disorder. And I'll run through these kind of quickly because, again, we've touched on these before, and most of our listening audience, I think, may have some understanding. But number one, the narcissistic personality disorder, or the narcissist, they have, number one, a grandiose sense of self-importance. Again, it's all about me. Number two, they're preoccupied with fantasies of power. They think that they're more powerful, more important, I have more to offer, etc. Number three, they think they're special and unique. I deserve more opportunities. I deserve privilege. I deserve because I'm special and I'm unique. Fourthly, they require excessive admiration. I need people to tell me how wonderful I am, how amazing I am, how unique I am. Number five, they struggle with entitlement. Number six, they're exploitative. They exploit the goodness of other people. They take advantage of other people. Number seven, they lack empathy. If someone is hurting, crying, whatever, it's kind of like, well, you deserve it, and they move on, kind of thing, So they lack empathy. Number 8, they believe others are envious of them. They believe others, are envious of how they look or what they drive or where they live or the titles they carry. And they have this very arrogant attitude. So narcissism, again, is a real personality disorder, and it is very difficult to carry those traits into a marriage and expect the marriage to be extremely successful. Because the reality is, when you sign up to get married, you realize one thing: life's not about you. Yeah. But the narcissist never gets that memo. They still believe that narcissism is about them. Now, here are some unique traits, if you will, of a narcissistic wife. Okay. Being that the husband is concerned that his wife is not willing to discuss things that are important, not willing to get on board with the faith of their family, if you will. And so here are some traits of a narcissistic woman and how she treats her husband. Number 1, everything is his fault. She's unsatisfied and she's consistently disappointed in him. And so because of that, she speaks down to him and shows him no appreciation. Wow. Now, one of the key things that most husbands want from their wives is some sense of appreciation. Right. Number 2, she never takes his side. She never has attached to him. So, she's on the side of the boss, she's on the side of the neighbor, she's on the side of her mother-in-law or her mom or whatever. She is on everyone's side except the side of her husband. And so she never really takes his side. Number 3, she will discount his need for intimacy and basically say that he's the problem. And she'll create isolation and loneliness and say that, this is your problem. And so whenever the husband feels like, hey, I need this intimate moment, she sees that as a problem. Number 4, she will remove friends and even family, but especially women, from his life. So in other words, if he was close to his sister, if he was close to his mom, if he was close to his cousin or whomever, or maybe he has a lifelong friend from, elementary school that's a woman, she will remove any woman from his life because she knows that if that woman tells him, this is not right, this is not healthy, this is not how it's supposed to be, this is not what a healthy marriage or a healthy relationship with a woman looks like, then she realizes that she will be, found out, if you will. She'll be exposed. Next, she feels and she expresses that she could have done better in marriage. And she'll tell him that. She'll basically remind him, you know what, you married up when you married me. She'll tell him that. Or I could have done much better. Or she'll even say, I should have married the guy who I was engaged to before I met you. Or I should have married the guy that I dated when I was in high school. Or I should have married, or whatever. And she'll basically let him know that she could have done better in marriage. Or something along those lines. And it's very heartbreaking, it's very heart-wrenching, but it keeps him feeling like, well, maybe if I try harder, maybe if I do more, maybe if I gain more, achieve more, then I can win her favor. Number 6, there's 10 of these, by the way. She blames him for her past traumas, mistakes, and abuse. So if she was abused as a child, if she was hurt by someone, an uncle, a brother, whomever, she starts blaming him for her past traumas, her past mistakes, and the past abuse. She says things like, you're just like all the other men in my life. You're just like all the other people. You've let me down. You've disappointed me. You're all men are the same. And so he's constantly trying to, make up for the mistakes of other people or the choices of other people because he represents all the bad men in her life. Next, she wants to be the queen. She doesn't want you to be the king, but she wants to be the queen. And so serving her, reporting to her, is a form of control. And I will argue this, that when a person wants to control through intimidation, through manipulation, and through domination, some will argue that's a form of witchcraft. Now, I don't want to go down that road too terribly far, but the goal of marriage is not controlling the other person. The goal of marriage is to share life with the other person, serving the other person, and being served by the other person. Next, she has a lot of blame shifting. Lots of blame shifting in these relationships. Again, it's all his fault. He's to blame. Had he done more, had he done less, had he done better, things would be better in their relationship. Number 9, she is emotionally absent. Again, narcissists have nothing to give emotionally. Narcissists are emotionally absent. They have nothing to give emotionally. And then number 10, the narcissist continually brings threats of divorce.
Wow.
So this is what happens when a person marries a narcissist or a person with this type of personality disorder. And the sad thing is this: you may not know this after the first few weeks or months of the relationship. You may not know this after the first year or 2 of the relationship or of the marriage. But what begins to happen is you can only hold your breath for so long.
Yeah.
You can only hold your breath for so long. And so what happens is this narcissistic personality disorder begins to reveal itself over time, and then all of a sudden it goes full blown and manifests itself in such a way that you're going, oh my goodness, where was the person? Who is this person? Where is the person that I married?
So if somebody finds themselves in this situation, what do they do?
Good question. 7 things that we can look at that I think may be helpful. And again, none of these are silver bullets. All of these, again, need to be done in concert with the other 6, if you will. But here are some things that I think need to happen. Number 1, of course, pray. In most cases, only God can break these chains.
Yeah.
But I believe prayer is powerful, and I believe most of our listening audience will believe that as well, that prayer is powerful. And so praying for your spouse is important. Praying that they will have a change of heart. Praying that they will get the help they need. Praying that they will start seeing things differently. They'll become more empathetic and sympathetic with the situation. Prayer.
God can transform.
Of course. And I've seen this happen.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. And some of our listening audience may have seen this as well. But prayer really does change things. Number 2, continue to grow in your faith. Here in this particular question, this husband is going, I have this faith. I want to go to church. I want to read my Bible. I want to believe in God, but I want to share this with my spouse.
Right.
And so if your spouse does not share this with you, you must continue to grow in your faith. It's difficult to do because it's hard to do anything, basically on your own. In other words, it's always good to have someone to be by your side.
Right. A partner.
A partner, exactly. Whether it's recreational, whether it's financial, but it's good to have someone to partner with you. And that means even growing in your faith. But if they're not going to partner with you, you continue growing your faith. Stay in church. Stay in your small group. Stay in fellowship with other people. Stay in your Bible. Stay in prayer. Encourage your children. Bring them. Get involved, but continue to grow in your faith. Number 3, be a servant, but not a doormat.
Okay. Be a servant, but not a doormat.
Be a servant, but not a doormat. Narcissists, unfortunately, see servanthood as being a doormat. But you have to be mindful and careful that there is a fine line between being a servant and being a doormat. Continue to serve them, continue to love, and continue to invest, and continue to be a part of their life. The Bible, I believe, teaches this, so that you may win them.
Right.
So that you may, get them to see that your faith is real. But be a servant, but don't be a doormat. There's certain things I think you need to have boundaries and restrictions, and also be mindful that you are not, again, abused and used. Number 4, find support. Have that counselor in your life. Have that accountability partner in your life. Have that pastor in your life. Have that good friend, that close friend, that best friend since high school, whatever. Have that sibling, But have somebody in your life that will know your story, that will support you where you are, that will encourage you, that will give you, the encouragement that you need, sometimes the counsel that you need to stay, focused on what the bigger picture may be. But have that support. Number 5, use opportunities to demonstrate, display, and discuss God's blessing. Let them know, hey, look, God showed up today. This happened, that happened, and before I knew it, the problem was solved. And you remind them only God could do that. Now, they may reply, well, that's just a coincidence. Well, remind them, I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
Remind them that I believe God really does move. And the more they hear that, the more they'll realize too that coincidences may not be the answer to these behaviors or to these actions or to these changes of circumstance. Number 6, know how to give reasons for your faith. Stay involved in apologetics. Stay up to date in some of the latest findings, whether it be prophetic fulfillment, archaeological excavations, scientific discoveries that point to the reliability and credibility of Scripture. But know how to give reasons for the hope within you. Let this, keep you on your toes, if you will, as far as reasons for your belief, the apologetics, if you will, giving good answers to good questions about why we believe what we believe. And then number 7, continue to show her love, grace, and truth. Continue to show her love and grace and truth. It's not easy when, a loved one is pushing back. It's not easy when that loved one that's pushing back is your spouse. But, as men, especially in this case, we're called to be the spiritual leaders of the home. We're called to be the ones who give the reasons and set the stage of what our family dynamic is going to look like spiritually.
Yeah. And I think that's great advice, and something to remember as well as for those that are not married, why it's so important,
right?
Because you get into a marriage relationship, which is a covenant, and you start to share life with somebody and you build a life with someone. Right. And when you start to, it's easier to circumvent issues or avoid issues.
Right.
But once they do happen, there is a way, and I'm glad you touched on those 7 areas of things that you can do, because there are ways to manage that, and there are ways to hopefully repair. And like you said, going back to number 1, which is prayer, hopefully there are ways for God to really move in their life and restore them to, and like you said, personality disorders is where it's not dysfunctional, but it's disordered. Things are kind of out of place.
Exactly.
And God can put those things back in place.
Yeah, and so for all the single folks who are listening, to our program today, maybe you're single, never married, maybe you are single and wanting to remarry, I would just encourage you to spend some time with that significant person in your life that you're hoping to maybe one day marry. Spend some time with them in church.
Yeah.
Invite them to your church, go to their church, but let the spiritual part of your life be significant at this stage of your relationship. Go into church with one another, go to small groups, go to Bible studies, go on mission trips, whatever it may be, as a couple. Yeah. So many couples, we go to other fun events, we go out to eat, we do fun things, we go on vacation, whatever it may be. Great. Go to church together.
Yes.
Really explore what do we believe. Explore what the other person believes. Share your understanding of God. Share your understanding of the Bible. But again, the main thing is take this time that we used to call courtship, and really unpack our beliefs and explore our beliefs and see how close we are or how far away we are in our beliefs.
Right. Very few people nowadays get married just based strictly off of logic, right? Most of the time it's an emotional decision that we make. And so it is important, as I think we would all recognize and embrace, that making all of our important life decisions strictly off of emotion is not a good formula. Yeah. So putting in that key component of your spiritual life
and I would hope,
is really important.
Exactly. And I would hope too that the couples or the people who are listening to this program and the pastors hopefully who are listening as well will definitely consider and make premarital counseling a very important part of their life. Premarital counseling won't solve all the future problems, but at least you can have a foundational point of reference of what we believe, why God's important, why church is important, why Bible study is important, why prayer is important, why passing down our faith to our children is important. And as you begin to come together in these areas, it will truly strengthen your marriage and your family.
Well, there you have it from the Family Answer Man, ways to be successful if you are in an unequally yoked relationship or marriage. We want to say thank you again to the incredible people at Winter's Aaron Day Smokehouse. Special meats for underwriting today's show. And as always, this show is not a therapy session, but we do believe that it is important to have a strong relationship with the Lord and with your wife or your husband. And we hope that this episode of The Family Answer Man has helped you to have a stronger, healthier, happier family.